comes a point in every car's life where it's time to say goodbye. And today's podcast episode is a little bit of an advice session. One that I should probably take. Charlotte, what are we doing? What are we talking about?
Today, we're talking about when should you buy a new car or a used car, if that's your cup of tea. But hey everyone, my name is Charlotte.
And I'm Gabi.
And this is Trunk Talk, and this is the podcast where we try to cover everything in the automotive industry, and we do it in the back of a trunk.
Can you guess today's trunk? Now, if you're listening to this on audio, so whether it be Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, you cannot see what trunk we're in. However, on YouTube, you can also watch this in video format. We're in the trunk of a beautiful 2018 Kia Forte 5 hatchback. Actually, a very sweet ride and an amazing used car choice.
Definitely. So, and that's exactly what we're talking about, new and used cars, and when should you buy one? Now, keep in mind, we're probably going to title this something like when should you buy a new car. We're using the term new in a relative way, meaning you are replacing a vehicle that you previously had with a vehicle that you did not previously had. So whether that is a brand new, straight from the manufacturer, whether that is something used, you bought off of Facebook Marketplace, whatever the scenario, this is just going to be some situations and what we've seen and what customers commonly tell us too on why they decided to get a different vehicle.
So not a first car purchase.
Not a first car.
We have done a podcast on that though, if you guys want to know what to look for when shopping for your first car.
Yeah, told you we do everything in the automotive industry.
So should we start off with, I guess, the biggest telltale sign it's time to get a new car? Number one is going to be repair costs. So there's a general rule of thumb that if in a year you're spending about half of what your vehicle's worth on just repairs, you should probably just get a new car. It's not worth it at that point. But yeah, if your repairs are stacking up and it's not little things like brake jobs and, general maintenance, that's probably a good sign that things are just going to get more and more expensive to come, and it might be a better option for you to just get something new, or again, new to you in that case. So repair costs are quite arguably the biggest one. And Charlotte, you've been in service. You've quoted people for repairs on their not so new vehicles, and it stacks up big time. Yeah,
definitely. And honestly, in some of those situations when you're doing, a significantly larger repair, say like a brand new transmission, there's not an option for a reman or anything along those lines, which unfortunately I have seen and have had to dealt with. And that type of situation, we'll talk things through with the customer, but sometimes we end up just directing them to sales to see, okay, what can we find you that fits your budget right now, whether that's be financing, whether it's leasing, or whether it's just a cash purchase.
Yeah, if you're at a point where you're putting a brand new engine in your, 2013 car, paying out of pocket for that, you really have to evaluate how much your current vehicle is worth. If you've got a 2013, let's say, Hyundai Elantra, and it's got 200,000 kilometers on it, that car might not be worth it to put a new engine in, but it also could be. So you really have to evaluate how much the repair is going to be and how much vehicles are running for something that you're interested in.
Take a look at the actual cost of what the vehicle would be, or the actual, value of the vehicle, the repair cost. And also keep in mind that this, a lot of this is just standardized stuff. Yeah. Obviously, every situation that you could be in could be completely different. So if you're the outlier, congratulations, and keep doing what works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people have the mentality of driving till the wheels fall off too, but maybe you should actually stop before the wheels do fall off. There's obviously a lot of repair costs that come with running a vehicle for a very, very long time with age, and especially here in Canada where we get so much salt and rust. Vehicles, they depreciate at that point, and sometimes it's just not worth fixing.
Oh my goodness, I need to readjust myself in this trunk. I was sitting on the edge and I'm falling in. Okay, so the next area for consideration is going to be safety. Now this is one that I personally find huge, and I think it could be just because I'm a mom now, and it's never just me in the car, it's always me and my daughter at the minimum, and I think about safety a lot. So I would consider purchasing a new vehicle if I was having safety concerns. So whether it had outdated equipment, such as, maybe it was lacking crumple zones. A lot of people say, they didn't build them like they used to. Yeah, it's because if you got hit in those cars, like you were just dead. They're supposed to crumple in on themselves now.
Those beautiful, beautiful cars from the 70s, the 60s, you will die if you get into an accident with those cars.
If it's lacking something like ABS even, or I say ABS even, like that's
ABS
a big one.
That's a
big one, and it is pretty standard. Or airbags, stuff like that. Like if you're driving a really, really older vehicle, I'm really going to encourage you to try to find something that is a little bit of a safer option and find something that works in your budget. I'm also going to say, like, the performance in extreme climates. So here in Canada we actually had a pretty big snowstorm here in Southern Ontario.
Yes.
We got a lot of snow, very icy, very cold, lots of just snow blowing everywhere, and people sometimes forget how to drive in that. Yes. So evaluate the climate that you live in and make sure that you're getting a vehicle that is going to be suitable to those conditions. And that's going to differ, and this may not even be a consideration for you depending on where you live, but you want something that can handle the elements that you are driving in. Say if you get a lot of buildup of snow at the end of the driveway, you may want to consider something that involves all-wheel drive, just help you get you over that hump. So I would definitely consider those for safety to make sure that you're not getting stuck.
On the topic of winter, I guess based off wherever you live, again, here in Ontario, we get so much road salt in the winter. Whether it's a snowy winter or not, there is salt on those roads. And our vehicles, specifically older vehicles, you put that on a hoist, there are rust holes in the frame. So that comes down to safety. If you get in an accident with a vehicle with a rusted frame, that vehicle is not going to hold up well. It really won't.
It's going to crumple, not in the way you want a crumple zone to.
Yes, and even if that vehicle, I mean, it's not giving you any reliability issues, but it has an unsafe frame, that's still an unsafe vehicle. That's not something you'll want to be driving with your kids or even just commuting to work with, right? So that's definitely something to consider, and not a lot of people realize that because inside their car they feel fine. Yeah. They don't need a new engine.
It's like out of sight, out of mind,
you
know?
Exactly. But no, it's a serious thing. Another thing is lifestyle change, right? So Charlotte and I both have gone through some lifestyle changes over the last
They're not similar at all.
They're not similar, but sometimes the vehicle that you currently drive doesn't hold up with your future plans. And life happens, so a lot of stuff can be unexpected. I know for me, I recently moved more so to the countryside area. I used to live kind of in the deep, like downtown. Streets got plowed immediately. The roads were generally fine. All of that was okay. Now I live somewhere more country, and most recently we actually had a snowstorm last week, and it was a pretty bad storm, probably one of the worst we've had in years. So roads took a while to get plowed. I just got a 4x4 truck, so I was okay. Another thing that changed is I horseback ride, and my old vehicle was a front-wheel drive sedan. It was pretty low to the ground. The driveway that I go horseback riding, or to the farm where I horseback ride, has a lot of divots, and it's a long, steep, hilly driveway. My car couldn't get up that if it snowed even a little bit. So the 4x4 definitely helped in my case. But in other cases...
I was going to say, I've made very different lifestyle changes. So in the past 5 years, I've gotten married, I bought my home, I had my first daughter who's now 2, and I actually have baby number 2 on the way and due in August, which we're very excited for. So lots of big lifestyle changes that have all happened in that area, and through that, my vehicles have shifted. So when I first had my daughter, I was driving a Kia Sportage, and now keep in mind, I do drive a demo, so it's not like I am actively, buying and selling these vehicles as quickly. But after I had that vehicle, I thought it was fantastic. I loved the cargo space, but I found that I needed a little bit more legroom when I'm using a car seat, especially one that is rear facing. I found that I needed a little bit more legroom, and so did my husband. So from there, I switched into something that's a little bit bigger, which is a Kia Sorento, and it also has the benefit of captain's chairs. So from there, even though I typically am only driving 4 people max, and it is a 6-seater, I'm still able to get the max amount of cargo room by having those 2 seats in the rear folded down to fit things like a stroller, dog crates if I need, because we do have 2 dogs as well, my reusable bags, groceries, pack and play. This vehicle, we also take it on road trips for our family. It's kind of become the default in both my family and also for my in-laws too, the road trip vehicle. So something like that, just upgrading in terms of size, definitely is something that made sense for me.
But that doesn't always mean getting a bigger vehicle.
No.
So Charlotte made a great point saying her family's growing, her needs are growing, she needs a bigger vehicle. But for someone, let's say you live and work in the same city, maybe your commute's 15-kilometer round trip or even less, and you're driving a big SUV, maybe even a big truck. That's not exactly fuel efficient. And it may be in a better interest if you do change jobs, something with more of a commute to get a smaller, more efficient vehicle, right? So no sense lugging around a giant minivan if you don't really need that for your commute.
I'll even say that, like, as your kids are growing up and you don't need all of the equipment that comes with having young kids, like car seats, strollers, stuff like that, you can downsize, get a more fuel-efficient vehicle, maybe get something that's a little bit more comfortable too, not necessarily something that can be as jam-packed, of course, unless your kids are doing hockey as their hobby.
Yeah, exactly. So
evaluate that.
I grew up with my mom driving a front-wheel drive sedan, and it was totally fine up until my brother started playing hockey when he was like around 13, 14 years old, and then my mom got an SUV for the first time. So up until then, she was totally fine having 2 kids and a sedan.
Yeah, my mom was too. She had a sedan for a long time.
They worked totally fine, and then we also got a much bigger dog, and then they ended up getting a cottage and a trailer, and they needed something to tow. So that's when the lifestyle change required a larger vehicle at that point, right?
And also something that can tow.
Yeah.
You know, that's something like, do you have hobbies? Are you buying other property? You know, do you need something that can just keep up with the weight that you're towing? Yeah. Buy a boat.
If you drive a Smart for 2 and your family's growing, you might have to get a new vehicle.
That's a cute ride.
If you're commuting 50 kilometers each way and you're driving a 3/4 ton truck, you might need another vehicle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it doesn't just come down to reliability
Yeah.
or breakdowns, that kind of thing. It really comes down to where is your money going and is it making sense at this point?
I will say, speaking of reliability, that's kind of the next point that I had written down. And I want to talk about it in a couple different ways. So we've talked about like if your car is costing you money in terms of repair, but is it costing you money in terms of time? You know, is it something that is reliable that's going to get you to and from work where you're not having to, you know, all of a sudden call in because your vehicle is not operational, or you're showing up late, you're missing out on that income.
Like you're calling me out.
Yeah. No, you've been really good at not being late.
Yeah, that's right.
Or even just like all of a sudden you have to call someone else, or you know, to pick up your kids or to take care of the dogs, or you have to take an Uber and stuff like that. All of those costs build up, and that's something that I would definitely consider. But then, of course, you know, the traditional reliability aspect, you know, is this vehicle consistently breaking down? Are we seeing the same problems, or just when we get one fixed, is it another thing? And that's when you kind of have to cycle back to the repair cost segment.
Another thing is, can you even drive your vehicle? So
Can you drive it without being stressed out?
Yeah, exactly. I know my truck struggles on the highway. I can barely get up to highway speeds. And the highway that I would take to work, it's a 400 series highway. There's a big stretch of it that it's 110 kilometers per hour. Everyone's going faster than that. And here I am, maybe going 100, shaking, steering wheel's shaking. I can hear everything that's happening. The wind's gusting me either which way. That might not be the best commuter car.
Yeah, probably not.
Another thing,
But do you like it?
Also, if you have a sports car, but you also live in Ontario where we get winter, it might be in your best interest to get something to drive in the winter too, a separate vehicle. Unless you're my boyfriend.
I was going to say, you're giving a lot of advice that you haven't taken.
I'm just saying it would be nice and it would make sense.
You are right. You are right. It would.
It would certainly make sense.
Okay, what's our last and arguably most exciting point?
Most exciting point is simply because you want a different vehicle. Let's say maybe you got a raise at your job, a new job, and you got a bigger budget now to spend on a car, and let's say you like cars, you want something with more power, something more luxurious. Even if your current vehicle is fairly reliable and it's nice, it's not doing you no wrong, maybe you just want a new car.
Yeah.
And for that, go for it.
So I actually really agree with that, but I always put it with a caveat.
Yes.
I always put it with if you can afford it.
Yes.
I don't think it's necessarily a wise idea to stretch your budget to the max because you want Apple CarPlay, but even though I love Apple CarPlay, but if you can afford it and you want something that is different, that's higher performance, that has more tech features in it, and you can do it, then do it and enjoy it and have fun with that.
Yeah. I think, vehicles, I'm not going to lie. I know we work with cars, but cars are a huge waste of money. I mean, they're a depreciating asset, you guys, let's be real, but we still need them. And cars bring a lot of people joy, right?
Yeah, you spend so much time. Like for me, I spend so much time in my car. I want to enjoy what it is, and I certainly do in my vehicle. So very grateful for that.
There's also some people that simply just do not care, and a vehicle is just
and that's fine too. Yeah, that's totally fine too.
For that, like this last one may not really apply to you, and maybe you're just happy with whatever car you have.
What do you want? A car that goes from A to B? Yes.
Yes, exactly. And at the end of the day, that's really what a car is, right? So you just want to make sure you can get from A to B safely. You're not paying a ton in repairs.
Yeah.
It's reliable, of course. And if it makes you smile, it's something that you like too.
Yeah. So with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in today. And just remember, this is more so just a discussion on what we have seen from customers as to why they're purchasing a different vehicle. It's not necessarily a set in stone rule. It's just us yapping about some stuff that could potentially be useful if you are flushing out, should I keep my car or should I purchase something new?
Yeah.
So we hope that you guys found this episode helpful. We will be back next week. And
next week with a similar topic too.
Yes.
A little bit different, but semi-similar. I also wanted to say, if you guys had to make this decision to get rid of a vehicle in favor of something else, let us know what you ended up getting, what you got rid of, and why you did it.
Yeah.
Was it a lifestyle change? Was your last car a money pit? Or did you just want something different? So
yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah. And as always, please rate this podcast wherever you're listening to it. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the Kia Hyundai channel, like this video, and leave those comments that Gabby just said down below. But we will see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.